John Flanagan was born in 1961 in Winnetka, Illinois. He was the oldest of four and had three younger sisters. In his pastime, he enjoyed scouting and playing sports.
So I listen to a lot of, British rock and what we used to call folk rock. The band, the Allman Brothers, Marshall Tucker Band, and the Grateful Dead I like very much. So British music and some good American music, and that included Little Feat and Warren Zevon.
British rock bands included The Clash, The Beatles, and The Who. Some folk bands included the Allman Brothers, the Grateful Dead, and the founder of folk rock, Bob Dylan.
And disco didn't like it at all.
Although my uncle didn't like disco, it was a very popular music genre at the time. It was based from funk and R&B music. Some popular bands were Earth, Wind & Fire, Diana Ross, and of course, the Bee Gees. In the fall of 1979, my Uncle John attended Georgetown University, where he studied history. Being in such an influential place such as D.C. really shaped his political views, especially about Ronald Reagan and George Bush.
Suddenly, George Bush comes along. He's from Andover, and he ran with Ronald Reagan. And I thought, okay, we all understand George Bush, George H.W. Bush. We kind of know his, how he's sort of put together. But he's teamed up with Reagan, and a lot of people like Reagan, and they seem to have some answers, and they seem to be confident. And Jimmy Carter never seemed confident. He kind of, was always telling us we had to do with less and accept less. Not Reagan and Bush. So they run in November of '80, and we were all pretty excited. The males at Georgetown and the guys I knew.
Reagan and Bush ended up winning that election. Ronald Reagan is an Illinois native, and before he ran for president, was an actor in movies like Bedtime for Bonzo. Some accomplishments they had in office was they cut taxes, increased defense spending, and negotiated a nuclear arms reduction agreement with the Soviets. The environment was a very popular topic in the 1970s. People were pushing to see a change in the environment. They started this by writing the National Environmental Policy Act. The NEPA is a broad protection of the environment that makes sure that all branches of the government give proper consideration about the environment before making choices that could affect it. In 1972, the government passes the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act. In the Clean Water Act, it regulates the pollutants in water and the quality of the water. It originally was started in 1948, but in 1972, they gave it a major update. And the Clean Air Act regulates air emissions from factories and companies. Not only did they pass acts, but in 1970, they officially made April 22nd Earth Day. The government also put out a PSA that says, "Give a hoot, don't pollute." My Uncle John definitely saw a difference in Chicago after they cleaned it up a little bit.
You almost can't believe it was ever as bad as it shows the pictures, but it was. Buildings in Chicago that my sisters and I thought were black because the rocks were black for the bricks, they turned out to be pink, and it was just the smog that had discolored the facades of these buildings.
Even though we still have environmental issues, it's a lot better than it was before.